Good morning. It is July 26th, 2016, Watchtower Victims Memorial Day, and I am here at my local park's labyrinth garden. Last year I left some flowers and a little poster about Watchtower Victims Memorial Day, and I'm going to do the same again this year. I think it's a beautiful location. I don't know who will find it, but hopefully it'll touch somebody's heart. I'm going to skip through the labyrinth here. I'm not going to walk the whole way, so I'm cheating. I'm using the same little poster or flyer that I did last year. It reads, "It is largely unknown that Jehovah's Witnesses are under an organizational mandate to shun former members of their religion. This includes dear friends and in many cases close family, which is incredibly damaging to members and former members alike. This is a memorial to all those that as a result have ended their life or have been forced to rebuild their life from scratch after changing their belief system. For all the individuals and families that have been affected by this harmful practice, we honor you on this special day." And then there's the website for Watchtower Victims Memorial Day. And this year on the back I added this. It has two quotes. One quote from an awake: "No one should be made to choose between his beliefs and his family," contrasted with the January 15th, 2013 Watchtower: "What your beloved family member needs to see is your resolute stance to put Jehovah above the family bond." And I'll just read what I wrote to go along with that. It says, "Cults use deception. The quote on the top is from a magazine that is used to appeal to potential recruits. It is meant to prepare them for opposition from family that hears that they are interested in Jehovah's Witnesses. The title of the article is it wrong to change your religion? It also gives the reader the impression that it is a fundamental truth that no one should be forced to choose between their family and their beliefs, because that's what it says. A person reading this would be shocked to learn that this seemingly universal principle would no longer apply if they and their family became Jehovah's Witnesses." The quote on the bottom is from a study edition of the Watchtower and is written for the eyes of indoctrinated members who will not think twice about the reasoning. To them, it is a fundamental truth that those who leave the organization are to be shunned, and they will humbly embrace the admonition that this also applies to family. It will never enter their mind that there is any contradiction. I decided to throw that in there because I want people to recognize that there is deception in this organization, and that if they were to read what it says here about the organizational mandate to shun, they might get a different response from a Jehovah's Witness. But that response is a deceptive one. So I thought I'd add that this year. And here are the flowers. I think that looks nice. Last year I put the same ad, or put that poster as an ad in the local newspaper. It was more of a coupon clipping newspaper though, so I don't know how many people noticed it. Supposedly it reached 85,000 homes, but I never really got any feedback from it, so it's hard to say. This year I was hoping to put it in a newspaper in a bigger city close by, but I procrastinated. Maybe next year. By the way, here's the car that I shoot my videos in. It is my Aposta Beetle, the Aposta Bug. You'll notice that the license plate is 587 BCE. Y'all know what that means. That gets you great Google hits if you type in 587 BCE. And anybody who types that in Google is very unlikely to become a Jehovah's Witness. And of course I have to share with you my little Sparlock, which reminds me every day that I made the right choice in leaving the organization. So I'm on my way to work now, but I want to talk a little bit about where I'm at in my recovery and where I'm at with my activism. For the first, it's been almost 2 years now, and for the first year and a half, I struggled with, and frankly, I'm still struggling. I don't know that I will ever not be struggling, but a lot of the trigger responses that I had to, world events, or, worrying what if they're right, that kind of stuff, that all ended about, I would say, a year and a half into it, probably sooner than that. But even worse was the initial trauma during the first 6 to 9 months. There's no way you can lose your entire social circle and not experience profound trauma, especially if you have family in the organization. In my case, I lost my parents. That was the biggest loss. I mean, I had dear friends that I lost. My marriage ended. These things were extremely traumatic, but if I had my parents stand by me through it, it would have been a very different experience. In addition to losing your social circle, you also lose, your anchor, the thing that gave you purpose and meaning. You go through total existential crisis. And to have that all happen at the same time, unless you've gone through it, there's really no way to describe it. And there's no way to prepare yourself for it. You think you know that it's coming and you're ready for it. But until you've experienced it, you don't know what you're in for. And it's going to be brutal, and you're going to cry, and you're going to be angry. And you're also going to struggle with denial. You want to believe that your loved ones love you enough to do their research and find out if maybe you were right about some of this. But that's pretty rare, I think. This is a journey that we make most of the time, that those of us who leave, we have to make that journey on our own. And there's this sense that everything that you did in your life up until the point of leaving was a waste. That you wasted your time, you wasted your life. And that's understandable. I'm here to tell you today that all of this gets better. In September, it will be 2 years for me. And in that time, I have a lot of new friends. I have a new family. A lot of people who are very dear to me. And I know that their love and friendship is unconditional. That if I don't believe the same thing as them, it doesn't matter. And it can be hard to believe that for a while. For me, in the beginning, during that really hard 6 to 9 month period, I was just in a panic that the people that I was trying to hold on to, that were new in my life, were going to leave me any second because I disagreed with them on something. I felt this pressure that I had to believe what they believed, otherwise they were going to turn their back on me. And I've gotten to a point now where I'm confident that that's not going to happen. That's extremely abnormal behavior. You're not going to find that outside of an organization like the Watchtower. And that's a wonderful thing. And that's a truth you have to find for yourself as you exit, or after you exit, a cult. And it's incredibly empowering to be able to choose your own beliefs, to have your own boundaries without having them dictated to you by an authoritarian religious leadership. I've had incredible joy at being able to research anything I want, to be able to read anything I want, to be able to form my own worldview, to be able to interpret events in my life the way I want to, without having to frame everything through Watchtower doctrine. I've never experienced so much joy. You know, as a kid, I remember having this feeling in my heart, this lightness, this almost like butterflies in the stomach, but higher, a feeling in your chest, a fluttering or a glowing sensation. It's hard to put into words. And I would experience it as a child when I was excited about seeing my uncle, or, you know, going to a party with friends. A sensation that I would feel from the love of my parents. And I had not felt that feeling in at least 20 years. I was basically, you know, looking back on it, I was basically dead inside for 20 years. And during my awakening process, I started having that feeling again. And even through the worst of the trauma, during those 6 to 9 months after disassociating from the organization, I still had that feeling. And I still have it today. It's never gone away, and I'm confident that it never will. You know, the sensation associated with unconditional love, with joy, with wonder, it's indescribable, and it's worth the trauma. It was worth the trauma for me. Now, it's something that you need to evaluate for yourself. If you're still in the organization, how much are you able to lose, you know, in interests of being an authentic person? How much are you willing to lose? Do you need to try to stay in the organization? Fake it? Do you want to try to fade and maintain contact and live a life that will not result in you being served a judicial committee notice? Or are you able to just sever your ties to the Watchtower completely? These are all choices you have to make. But I'm saying that there is life after the cult. Now, where is my activism at? If you've been following my channel, you know that a lot of my videos lately have not been about the Watchtower. And I think that that is evidence that I'm less driven to expose the Watchtower. That more of my mind now is spent on figuring out who I am. That's what's more interesting to me now. That said, I do feel a sense of responsibility to share what I know to the public. I believe in freedom of religion. I believe that everyone has a right to believe whatever they want to believe. But I also believe in informed consent. I think that a lot of people that are recruited by Jehovah's Witnesses are not given, I know that none of them are given informed consent, and I believe that a lot of them wouldn't join if they were given informed consent. If someone knows everything about the history of the organization, you know, knows that what they were teaching in 1919 does not harmonize with the idea that Jesus chose that religion to be his representatives on earth at that time, if they know that, if they know the problems with child abuse policies, if they know that Jehovah's Witnesses believe only they will be saved at Armageddon, if they know that they have to believe that the governing body is representing God, if they know that they can't question anything printed by the Watchtower, if they know that if they leave, they will lose any friends that they had in that organization, if they know that if they bring their family into that organization and a member of that family leaves, they will have to shun that family member forever, including their children. If they know that this is an organization that will make decisions for them about certain medical procedures, if they know all these things and fully understand the implications and want to become a Jehovah's Witness, who am I to say that they don't have the right to do that? So one of my main purposes in my activism is to add to the collective voice that is trying to provide the world community with informed consent. I don't have any delusions of crushing the Watchtower. And frankly, I don't want to tear away all the beliefs of all Jehovah's Witnesses. But I want to make it, and this is getting into my second intention, is I want to make it easier for those that the Watchtower isn't working for. I want to make it easier for them to leave. And I know from experience that having access to information is the thing that makes it easier to leave. You can look at the numbers and show that this is a fact. You know, before Crisis of Conscience was written, it was incredibly difficult to leave the organization. And if you look at the numbers pre-1981, this was a booming organization. And in fact, up until 1995, it was still more growth every year. The growth increased every year until the mid-90s. And it wasn't until the mid-90s when the internet reached a tipping point that now everybody had access to the internet, that the growth, although still increasing, was less of an increase on average every year. And that has continued ever since. And now in developed countries, there is almost no growth. And this is because information. This is because of information. You know, if we didn't have the internet and we didn't have people like Raymond Franz writing books on this subject of what goes on in the organization and educating the public, people wouldn't be leaving in the numbers that they have. There would be an increase, much like the increase that they had, you know, prior to 1980. Prior to 1995. So we're making a difference. Again, I have no delusions of crushing the Watchtower. I don't think I'm going to wake up indoctrinated Jehovah's Witnesses, and frankly, indoctrinated Jehovah's Witnesses that are happy, truly happy, if there is such a thing, they shouldn't be watching my videos. But if it's not working for you and you're watching this video, this is my gift to you. It's a small gift. It's a tiny little token that is part of the collective gift that we as former Jehovah's Witnesses are offering to the world. Inform yourself. Find out what this religion really teaches. Find out what their organization, the history of their organization is. Make a decision based on that. Beyond that, I really want to see changes in the organization, but I don't know how to bring them about. I want to see the shunning policy go away, first and foremost. If people could be disfellowshipped or excommunicated in a way similar to the way mainstream churches do it, that you no longer are a member of the church, but still have contact with the people you care about, that in itself would make the organization dramatically change. I would have a hard time calling the religion a cult at that point. If you can freely leave and still have your family, that means you can choose your beliefs without consequence. You know, there will be some consequences, but there's always consequences for changing your beliefs. You know, your life is going to change if you change from being a Republican to a Democrat. But it's not going to tear away your family. Unless you have family members that are just kind of jerks. And that, of course, does happen too. But with the Watchtower, it's institutional. It is mandated. It is across the board. If anybody leaves the group, they're shunned. Same thing with many other organizations like the Watchtower that I would label as cults. This needs to stop. Religious shunning needs to stop. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I want it to happen. I want to see governments take notice. Perhaps this is something that I need to look into more, how I can help move that forward so that organizations can no longer enforce that sort of thing. Perhaps taking away charitable status from organizations that do it is the answer. I don't know. I don't know if that's even possible. But if you were to take away the shunning, I believe all the other problems, such as the child abuse policies, the blood doctrine, that these things would sort themselves out, because if people can leave because their child was raped by an elder that the organization knew was a pedophile, if they can leave without consequence, that will have a ripple effect. And eventually, if enough people leave, that policy will have to change. Same thing with the blood doctrine. Of course, I'd like to see all three of those, the blood transfusion thing, the child abuse policies, and the shunning thing. I'd like to see all three be immediately reformed. But if I had to pick one, I'd say the shunning, because it makes it impossible for the ground level members to have a voice. And at some point, who knows, maybe there can be a Jehovah's Witness organization that is reformed, that, you know, the people at the bottom can have a voice, and the policies of the organization represents the needs of the rank and file members. I'm skeptical that that's possible, but who knows? Regardless of what happens, my personal activism, again, to review, is to make it easier for people to leave and to educate the public so that they have informed consent before they join. And as a third thing, I want to be a source of camaraderie among former Jehovah's Witnesses, especially fresh ones that are fresh out, to be reminded you're not crazy, to be reminded that things get better. So that's my contribution to Watchtower Victims Memorial Day. My heart goes out to people in the organization that are shunning family members and you cry about it. I know that you don't think you're making a choice, but you are. But I also understand that this choice is the natural one to make when you have been instilled with so many phobias about what happens if you question the direction of the Watchtower organization. My heart goes out to you. My heart goes out to all those who have been shunned because of this organization. My heart goes out to all of those who have lost loved ones because of the blood doctrine. My heart goes out to all those who have lost people to suicide because they didn't feel they were good enough in the organization, or because they left and they couldn't deal with losing everyone they cared about. It's not right. None of you should have suffered like that. And there's nothing I can do to take away that suffering other than recognize it. And that's what Watchtower Victims Memorial Day is about. I hope that this video has given you something to think about, has given you something that's comforting. I I want you to know that I find comfort in all your videos. If you're a YouTuber, I find comfort in your videos. I find comfort in the XJW community on Facebook, and thank you. Thank you for being a part of that. And thank you for watching this video.